Hey guys, welcome back to A Page in the Chapter, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Paige and today we are talking through my August highlights. I read 10 books in the month of August and today I'm going to be talking you through my favourites, my least favourites, my most disappointing, my most surprising, that kind of thing. Just the books that stand out from the month of August, and I will of course be giving you an update on how my physical TBR is getting along, and let's just say we fell behind a little bit this month, but more updates to come at the end of this video. I'm very excited to talk to you about these books today. I feel like I like the bookend at the end of the month, you know, of just like, here are the highlights, the lowlights, etc, etc, and then just kind of like closing the door and being free to move into my September TBR. I don't quite feel like I can properly start September because August just still feels kind of like unfinished. But if you guys enjoy wrap-up videos or TBR videos or any of that classic booktube content, then do please feel free to hit that big red subscribe button down below. I upload videos every Wednesday and every Sunday, so there is no shortage of bookish content here for you to enjoy. And all of my TBRs and wrap-ups are in playlists for you on my channel if you would just like to get more of this particular type of content. And without further ado, let's get on into my August highlights. So the first book I would like to talk to you about is a book that really took me by surprise. I didn't expect to enjoy this book as much as I ended up enjoying it, and that is The Run in the Holly Library by K.A. Lind. I ended up giving this 4 stars, and I was really hesitant going into this because I am not the biggest fan of romantasy Beauty and the Beast retellings. It's nothing against that premise in general, I'm just really tired of it now. It feels like every single romance that is coming out is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I don't know if everyone's just chasing the ACOTAR success or really what the obsession with Beauty and the Beast retellings are, but I'm kind of sick of them. So I was really hesitant to pick this book up knowing that it was a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but I'm really glad that I did, and I will 110% be continuing with this series and was really like taken by surprise. I also really think that this could be like the next big romantasy series some point down the line, because this has so many elements that romantasy readers are gonna love. So this is a romantasy heist style novel, and we follow our main character. I think it's Kiers, but I could be wrong. And she is kind of like this street thief, and she is kind of embroiled in this like mafia thieving society type situation, and she gets given a task where she has to break into this library and steal something. But when she does this, she realizes that she has been set up, and now she has actually broken the peace treaty that exists between humans and monsters, because she has just broken into a monster's house. Now, rather than killing her, this monster offers her a deal and an opportunity to learn more about a potential magic that she possesses and about the world of demons, and possibly escape from the life that she is forced into. And this involves our monster Graves using Kiers's ability and thieving background to steal something more powerful and more important from a very, very dark being. And we follow Graves and Kiers as they are kind of planning this heist, then training for this heist, and going on surveillance missions for this heist. I just feel like it has a lot of really fun, I think, micro tropes that people would really enjoy. I don't want to spoil those because that's kind of half the fun of reading. But what I absolutely loved about this book is that even like right at the end, you don't really know who you should trust. As a reader, we can't massively have this kind of like team situation. I mean, you can, but it's just so hard to know who actually to trust, and I feel like that can be a little hard to find in romantasy books nowadays. I really enjoyed not knowing in this book, and even by the end of it we didn't know, which is why I very much want to get my hands on the second book. I feel like the book does a really, really good job of keeping us in the main character's situation and really having us discover things at the same time as her, and keeping us really in the dark about things so that we're able to explore the world as our main character explores the world, learn about these monster politics as our main character does. And it also just really adds to the romance elements of this book, I think, because you're seeing the main character start to grow attachments to other characters, and we're kind of feeling that attachment too, but there is always this concern of, but what if they're not what they seem? What if something bad's gonna happen? And that's probably exactly how our main character feels, so I think the author does a really, really good job of keeping us in that same headspace. And it made for a 4-star read, and I really, really, really enjoyed this. The next book I would like to talk to you about is also kind of a surprising read for me. I had a feeling this would be a really good book and I would really enjoy it, but it still surprised me, and that is Throne of the Fallen by Kerri Maniscalco. I gave this 4.5 stars with the potential for it to be bumped up to a 5 stars if, looking back on it, I decide that it deserves higher. This is another romantasy novel. August was just really the month of romantasy for me. I didn't read any standout romances at all in August, but this was such a good romantasy book. I have read Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerri Maniscalco and Stalking Jack the Ripper, so I've read 2 of Kerri Maniscalco's YA books, and so I knew that I had heard really good things about this, and I knew the story sounded super interesting, but I was surprised by how easily Kerri Maniscalco took to the adult genre. This is her first adult romantasy, and you would never have guessed that if you didn't know. It is so well written and thought out, and the spice is spectacularly written that you just wouldn't have guessed that this was an adult debut. So this is set in the same world as Kerri Maniscalco's YA Kingdom of the Wicked series. We follow our main character, the Prince of Envy, and he is involved in this like deadly fae game where he has everything to lose and everything to gain from this game. He is trying to protect his court and his realm, and so he is involved in this game with the fae. And one of his clues in order to progress in this game is to get our main character Camilla to paint something for him, but Camilla completely refuses. She is a young woman in a Regency kind of time period. She is very tired of being used by men around her, and she refuses to take part in Envy's mess basically. But Envy desperately needs her to paint this painting, otherwise he will be out of the game and he will lose everything that he cares about and has worked for. And so we follow Envy and Camilla as they circle each other in this Regency time period, and then Camilla ends up getting sucked into these games herself, and we see them exploring different realms like the Fae realm and the Demon realm and things like that as we follow the course that these kind of deadly games take them on. If you want a really well written romantasy that also has a lot of plot, then this is going to be a perfect book for you, because it's kind of a slow burn-ish romance. I wouldn't necessarily class this as a true slow burn, but there is a slower pace to the romance here that really lets the plot develop. And this is also a 500-page standalone romantasy novel, which is very rare and means that you can get to the end of this book and know that all of those plot things that are introduced are going to be wrapped up by the end of this book. There is a sequel coming out which follows a different There is a sequel coming out which follows a different Prince of Sin, and I cannot wait to get my hands on that book too, because I just think if this is how well Kerri Maniscalco writes adult now, how good is it going to be in the second book? Like, Jesus. You find yourself really, really rooting for these characters, really believing the relationship between these characters and really wanting to see them get a happily ever after. And Kerri Maniscalco just keeps you guessing about elements of the plot right until the end of this book. It is so well thought out. There isn't anything thrown in that doesn't mean something or lead to something further down the line. And it was just an excellent version of romantasy. It wasn't overloaded with spice. It definitely fleshed out plot and had really interesting plot elements, but also still had enough of that like romance to, I don't know, just make it fun and really interesting. So I loved this and I could not recommend this enough. Next we have potentially the only 5-star of the month. Obviously if I bump Throne of the Fallen up to 5 stars then I'll have 2, but this is the only like pure 100% finished it and knew it was 5 stars, and that is Deadly Dreams by KJ Sutton. This is book 3 in the Fortuna Sworn series, and this smashed my heart into 1,000,001 tiny pieces, and they glued them together just a little bit and then like smashed those little pieces into just absolute powder right at the end of this book. I was terrified to go into this after the way the last book ended, and I don't want to say I was right to be scared, but also I was kind of right to be scared because this book hurted, but it hurt in the best way possible. It hurt in just the way you want a romantasy book to hurt. The Fortuna Swan series follows our main character, Fortuna Swan, and she is kind of the last remaining nightmare. So her power is fear, and when she touches people, she can sense what their fears are. She can use this knowledge to her advantage. It's how she manipulates people. And in book 1 we follow her as she is embroiled in Fae politics and a kind of relationship of convenience with a Fae prince in order to help track down her brother who has gone missing. So this is the 3rd installment of this series, and we have come so far from that first book, but I can't believe I gave a middle book in a romantasy series 5 stars. I genuinely feel like these books just get better and better, and they hurt more and more each time, and KJ Sutton really knows how to write an ending that brings people back to these books. I think that's how this series has been able to be as long as it is. I believe this is a 6-book romantasy series, possibly still with more to come out, and the reason that works is because the endings are so intense and the whole book really builds to this big moment, and then they're just really intense endings, and they always keep you coming back for more. So this really just smashed my heart into a million pieces, and I can't really say more without spoiling elements of this series for you, but I do have a vlog reading this which I will link you to, and if you aren't reading the Fortuna Swan series, I highly recommend it because it's one of my favourites, and I'm gonna be so sad when I don't have any more of these books to read. And then the point of these highlight videos is to not only talk about books that stand out positively in a month, but they're to talk about books that stand out for the wrong reasons in a month. And I guess luckily there was only one of these this month, but unfortunately it was the most disappointing of disappointments of all, and that is When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. This is so disappointing to me because I wanted to love this so badly. I am such a fan of Fourth Wing. I own so many copies of each book in different special edition formats. I just absolutely adore the Dragon Romantasy, and I was so excited to have another Dragon Romantasy, and I just didn't listen to the people in my life that were reviewing this negatively. I kept thinking I would be like an exception and that I would read this and really enjoy it, and then I just felt exactly the same way that everybody I know felt when they read this book. So this is a Dragon Romantasy series following our main character, Rave. And Rave is part of this kind of like underground society where she has to complete these assassination attempts and follow her orders and never really ask any questions. And we follow Rave as she ends up getting caught and being stuck in a situation that very much goes beyond her level within this corporation. She gets embroiled in a lot of politics and chaos essentially, and I don't want to give too much away, but you kind of get to the end of this book not knowing too much more than you did in the beginning. It feels like a lot happens and also nothing happens at the same time, and I think the reason it feels like this for me is because we as the reader always know a lot more than our characters do. There is a back and forth like time jump structure to this book. It is also multi-perspective, and as a result of this we always know a lot more than the characters we are reading as. And the characters don't really go through any character development throughout the process of this book. They are in exactly the same position at the end as they are at the beginning, and so it really just feels like you've read a lot of words but you haven't really gained anything at all. You haven't seen any development occur. Nothing has really changed from page 1 to page 550, however many pages this book is, and it's a very frustrating reading experience. I was also equally disappointed by this because I really felt like it had such potential. The magic system and world building was so interesting and intriguing, and I can really tell that the author had A, such a unique idea, and B, really thought about it, and like the whole folklore surrounding this world was so in-depth and well thought out. It was kind of mad to me. Like, it didn't really feel like it was just any fantasy world. It very much felt like it could be real somewhere, because the author had created such in-depth knowledge of this world. But unfortunately, I just didn't feel like this went anywhere. It didn't feel like the author really did anything with it that was particularly intriguing or exciting. Like, it just very much felt like nothing really happened in this book. The way it felt reading it was kind of, okay, here's our characters in this scene, and here's our characters in this scene, and here's our characters in another scene, and here's our characters in this scene, and this is a thing that often happens in romantasy novels, so here's our characters in this scene. And it didn't really feel like anything builded to any point or like contributed to anything in any real way. There was, as I said, like, it didn't contribute to any like character development. I didn't feel like we got any further in the plot. It just kind of felt like the whole book was our main character catching up to the knowledge that we already had, and nothing really happened. So unfortunately, I really did not like this book, and I gave it 2.5 stars. It was just such a meh reading experience for me. I didn't have like a completely awful time when I was reading it. I really wanted to like it so badly that I kept hoping that at the end of the book it would be worth it, like the time and effort that I had put into it would be worth it. And I did hear that people were really talking about like the latter sections of this book, so I really stuck with it, but unfortunately just didn't feel like my time was particularly rewarded in this case. And I was so disappointed with this, and I am undecided on if I will continue with this series. A part of me wants to, because I feel like it could be better in the first book. Now that we've got so much of the like foundation from this book, maybe a lot of my issues will be solved. But I'm also not particularly tempted to even give it a try, because I found this to be so meh. So I think for me it will depend on the reviews that are coming out about the second book when it's out and people are reading it, because right now I'm leaning towards not continuing with the series, but I think I could be convinced, maybe. So those are my August highlights, and now I will talk you through how we're doing with the physical TBR and like the general stats of the month. In the month of August, I read 6 physical books from my TBR. I added 9 books to my TBR in August. It was not as great as I needed it to be. I read a lot physically, I guess. Of the books that I read in the month of August, 60% of them were physical. So just looking at that stat, it's pretty good, but I still added more to it than I read. And that is mainly down to my subscriptions, but it needs to be better. If I don't want to cease getting my subscriptions, then I need to make sure that I am reading more physically. But I'm really gonna try my best. So my physical TBR is now sat at 67 books. It has gone up from the last month, but I mean, obviously it has because of the stats that I've just told you. I would really like to try and get this number as close to 50 or under 50 as I possibly can by the end of the year. I don't actually think it's doable at this point, but it is something that we will continue working towards next year. And just being aware of these stats is very helpful for me and is very motivating for me to try and read my subscription books as I get them. Some of them I'm holding on to for specific vibes, but for the most part I would like to try and read them as I get them. My physical TBR has gone up. We are now at 67 physical books sat on these shelves that I have not read, and we need to work on it. But that will be a story for next month's highlights. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and were interested in the reviews of my highlights of the month. If you liked this video and you'd like to see more from me, then do please feel free to hit that big red subscribe button down below. Stay tuned for future content. I upload every Wednesday and every Sunday, so there is no shortage of bookish content here for you to enjoy. Also, do please check me out on my bookstagram at apaigeinchapter. I upload frequently over there, and it is a fun way to get some extra content about what I'm reading and extra book recs and things like that. I hope you guys are having a fantastic week. You're enjoying everything you are reading, and there are no reading slumps in your future. And I will see you for my next video. Bye guys.